Hello everybody, Randy Patrick here. Welcome to Housing Bubble 2.0 News of the Week, or as I like to call it, another episode of As the Housing Market Turns, and turn it is doing right now. Now I'm actually kind of excited today, reason being because something that I like to look at and review so I can see where the market's headed was released today. So of course, ATTOM Data Solutions released their Q1 2019 U.S. Home Equity and Underwater Report, which is something, again, I've been looking at this for the past number of years. I think it's a pretty indicative as to see where the market's going when you look at what's happening here. So basically in Q1, there were 5.2 million, just a little over 5.2 million U.S. properties that are seriously underwater. And basically what does seriously underwater means? Well, essentially the balance of loans secured by that property are 25% more than the actual appraised value or market value of the property. So for example, you own a property, it's worth $100,000, but you owe $125,000 on it. So, what does that do to a homeowner? Well, you're kind of stuck in the property. You can't sell it unless you want to bring money to the property, all right, and close. That's not going to work. You can do a short sale to get out of it, but in the end, you're really kind of stuck in the house here. So it just is, I think it's indicative as to where the market is and where it's headed. Now, why this is so important is the fact that it actually increased. So this 5.2 million and change underwater properties, and again, sorry, let me clarify, seriously underwater. So seriously underwater means 25% and above. You could be 10% above, with respect to mortgage value on appraised value, you're still underwater, but this is 25% and above, which means you're seriously underwater. And this represents 9.1 of all U.S. properties with a mortgage. Now, it's actually up from the fourth quarter of 2018, which was 8.8%, but it's down from 9.5%, which was Q1 this time last year. So a slight decline, but up from the quarter. So again, home paces are accelerating or increasing at a slower pace now, so we're going to see some leveling off here. But why I think this is, and clearly this to me is an indication of things slowing down. Why I think this is really interesting is because we've been kind of plateauing around the 5 million mark for a couple of years now. So I'll post the link in the the information section of the video, and so you can go to this article. And again, just to clarify this, ATTOM Data Solutions used to provide much more interesting or much more information in these articles. Now they're just giving you little snippets, and clearly they're a data company. They want you to go purchase the data, obviously, and the full report. How much that costs, I don't know. But the point is they're going to give you some high-level stuff right here. So in the article they did post in their news section, there is a bit of a chart here, and it really starts off from Q1 2012, I guess, when they were actually looking at how many properties were underwater, which started off about 12.5 million. So if you sort of go from that point onward, that's kind of our trough as where the market was at its lowest point after the housing crisis. Everything imploded. It's at the trough right here, from the peak to the trough. And sort of since that point in time, the past 6-7 years, it really has been kind of a linear, the amount of properties underwater has been, it's like a linear kind of, slowly, we're just picking off more and more and more. So more properties are being sold, values are increasing, equity is coming back, so people are feeling better about themselves. But if you take a look at the chart, you can see a general decrease in the number of properties that are seriously underwater, until we get to about, and I think we hit our lowest point of underwater properties in Q3 2017. And then it actually kind of levels out around 5 million or so. So one quarter it might go up, one quarter might go down, and Q3 we were down, in 2018, Q4 up, and Q1 we're up here. So, when you take a look at this, for me, the lowest point in the past couple of years was Q3 2017. And that's kind of telling. And again, you'll look at the chart on this. Now, if you recall some of my other comments and on some of my previous videos, this really stands out to me because back in the fall of 2018, I guess you could say the chief economist for Bank of America / Merrill Lynch, I don't know her name, but she came out and said, hey, real estate's changing. We've seen the decrease. Real estate peaked, she said in November 2017. So therefore, everybody call your realtor, i.e. sell your property, get out now while you can. So, really, if you think about it, Q3 2017, we were at the lowest point of underwater properties, about 4.6 million. So of course, she's saying November is probably the best time. And then from that point in time, we've seen it actually go back up to over 5 million again. So here we are. We've gone through a couple of years of, really 5 years of good appreciation. We know it's kind of leveled off now. We've had some high water marks, 2018 spring and summer, and now we still are in a situation where we've got over 5.2 million properties that are seriously underwater, and it's not going down. It's leveled off and slightly sort of increasing a little bit here and there. So what does that tell us in the marketplace? It tells us values have plateaued, values have peaked in many locations. Now we're starting to see it slide the other way, which is interesting. For your information, the highest seriously underwater share will be found in Louisiana, Mississippi, Arkansas, and West Virginia. So states with the highest share of seriously underwater properties were Louisiana at over 20%, Mississippi at over 17%, Arkansas at 16%, West Virginia at 16%, and Illinois at 16.2%. So you've got, Louisiana, obviously, just a tougher area, and obviously when you've been hit with a couple of hurricanes and some floods, you're going to have issues. Other locations, probably economics, but Illinois, we know, boomed and now is actually having some major issues, so Illinois doesn't surprise me. Now, they looked at 99 metropolitan statistical areas when they analyzed the report, and I guess you could say some of the actual metros were Baton Rouge at 21.3% of having underwater properties, Scranton, Pennsylvania at 20%, Youngstown, Ohio at 19%, Toledo, Ohio at 19.2%, and New Orleans, Louisiana at 17.8%. So we've kind of got Baton Rouge, so you got a lot of Louisiana there, Ohio, Pennsylvania. So a little spread out here. But the point though is that we've leveled off, and to me this is always an indicator of where the market is trending. It's trending back to having more underwater. 32 zip codes in the U.S. have more than half their properties that are underwater, if you can believe that. So among all the zip codes with at least 2,500 properties, 32 of them had half their properties underwater. Those zip codes can be found in Milwaukee, Trenton, Chicago, St. Louis, and Cleveland. So we're talking, not boony locations, remote locations. We're talking, Trenton, Milwaukee, Chicago, St. Louis, and Cleveland, fairly good-sized cities out there that are having the issues. And the top 5 zip codes with the highest share of seriously underwater properties were in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, with 70% underwater, Trenton, New Jersey, 68.9%, Scottsbluff, Nebraska, 63.4%, Harvey, Illinois, 63.1%, and Rockford, Illinois at 62.8%. This Nebraska thing surprised me here too. I've never heard of that going on there. So the point is, there are locations around the country that have never fully recovered from the previous housing crisis, which certainly will be dragging down the local real estate there. And we see now that we're sort of, stepping up with respect to, hey, we leveled off a little bit, around the 4 almost 5 million mark, and now we're sort of inching our way back up here. So like we showed with respect to Redfin and Case-Shiller on the downward trend, so home values downward trend, then on the flip side, we look at underwater properties on the upward trend. So it's always, they're coming to meet here, which is not a good scene if you're looking to cash out on your property. But if you're looking to buy, I think that's very positive. That the market's balancing out, the market's in equilibrium, whatever you want to call it. We know that changes are happening. More and more locations are adding inventory. More and more locations are becoming working towards a buyer's market. I can see price growth, price appreciation has declined, and now we're seeing more underwater, which is very interesting. So again, the trends are there. The trends on property values going down or plateauing going down, the trends underwater going up. So that's really all I'm going to say about that today. The point though is that I think this is telling. And if you take a look at the chart, you can kind of see that the past couple of years, we have leveled off. So to me, that means the public, the buyers out there are kind of at their limit with respect to what they can afford, what they're willing to buy. Have interest rates affected this? I'm sure at some point in time they have, but I think it's more of the fact that we're kind of at our limit now. We really can't afford more. And earlier, with the earlier video in the week, I talked about the fact that 70% of the population with their median income can't afford their median house price, which to me indicates that we are truly unaffordable, and the market has to change to allow more buyers to jump into play here. It's simple as that. So again, this is telling, something you want to track. Unfortunately, Adam only produces the data once every quarter. As I said, I'll put the link to this article in there, which I think you'll find is interesting. But again, going forward, this is a trend, and as much as people think that, making up statistics or we're always looking at the negatives, yeah, we do look at the negatives because that's dominating the news right now. There's not as much positive out there. We see changes in the marketplace. We see new homes, are less inventory that are out there. They're being reduced in price to move. We see a lot of locations, a lot of the mega cities having more inventory, the luxury market having issues and seeing a lot more inventory and a lot less sales. We're seeing average median prices in a lot of the mega cities or the bigger cities, especially in the West Coast. Earlier in 2018 peaked, and now they've come down significantly. So things are changing, as we said. One of the economists that I follow, and I know he's a little bit of a polarizing individual. Either you like him or you don't. I don't really, either way, I don't have an opinion, but I like the fact that he talks about bubbles and bubble theory and how the cycles work. When you start to learn that, understand that, you kind of see that things make sense. And he said a number of months ago that we're going to see it change from the top down. So before, we had the subprime crisis, which typically was in the smaller, lower priced properties and kind of work its way up. With subprime mortgage meltdown, the issues there, then equity stripping, through the majority of the marketplace. Then we had the full-on housing crisis. Here we are actually, what he said is actually sort of happened. It's happening now, and it's pre-recession, and we see the fact that a lot of the larger, higher-end homes market are really hurting throughout the country, not just in the West Coast, in New York, in Miami, whatever. So the more expensive, Washington, whatever it is, the more expensive locations are starting to erode further and faster than anticipated, and that's where the housing crisis will start. It will start up here and drop its way down. And again, this is just yet one more sign. I always talk about signs. Well, this is just one more sign where you can sort of tick that box and go, hey, we see activity, we see it trending in the opposite direction where we wanted to go. And when you take a look at all the signs in culmination, accumulation, whatever you want to call it, then we see that certainly there's something about going on in the housing industry. If you don't see it, then I think you should stop and take a look at it. Don't believe it, that's up to you. But again, the majority of the sentiment out there, that from what I understand from comments and emails and calls that I take, is the fact that it's too expensive. We're not moving, we're not buying until we see material prices come down, and then we're going to work the angles and work the market to get the best deals possible, which is what you should do. So that's a scoop, everybody. So again, short video today, but I just really want to highlight this point. We'll have another video shortly with more sort of broad-based news. But to me, this is one of the most important things I look at, is the negative equity component here. And again, we're talking seriously underwater, which is 25% and above. What they don't really talk about, which I'm trying to find the information on, is that 1% to 24%. Where is that number? So how much negative equity is out there? We talk seriously underwater. We don't talk overall negative equity, which I'd be interested to find out. And realize that, this is where the breaking point is for people. So if you're going to sell a property, traditionally, you're going to have some closing costs. You may have some commissions, at least one side of a commission, a buyer's agent commission, maybe both buyers and listing agent commission. So you're gonna have that in closing costs, tax prorations, things like that. So when you close on your property, your net amount, if you sell it for $500,000, you're going to be, you're paying, out of that $500,000, you're paying a certain component, for those items, closing costs and commissions. So your net may hurt you with your mortgage payoff. So some people will be precarious, and it doesn't make sense for them to sell, which means they hold on to it, which means that if the market slips, they fall further into negative equity, and then they're effectively stuck in their house. and they don't know what to do, or they can't move up, can't move down, and they can't pay off that mortgage, which is the situation. So typically that leads to other issues, as we know, mortgage foreclosure, short sales, etc. So again, just that's what I wanted to speak about today. We'll do more news shortly. And again, thank you for the views. Thank you for the comments and likes. As always, I love to hear from you guys, and I know people have inquired. I had a busy past 4 or 5 days, so I'll start getting back to people now. My event's over, was a success. I'm very pleased with that. We'll be doing more of those in the area in the near future, so I'll get back to those who've inquired. And again, take care, and if you're not already a subscriber, love it if you could subscribe. It helps our channel grow, and we look forward to seeing or speaking with you guys in a couple of days. Thank you very much.